I'll just give you the keywords that he used to answer them. He said sugar. Okay, one was, the other thing he said was classic lazy evaluation. So, can you expand on those two terms and how your work?
So the syntactic sugar is the sugar really is that you.
So you shouldn't have done it.
No, you put in. No, it's okay. So when we look at, for example, a query, let's look at the database query. So typically, what this achieves is that instead of writing all so much code that we did earlier, if you use JDBC, you now have only a very short syntax for achieving the same operation, which is much lesser code. And the actual what happens in the backend is that these keywords really get converted to the same JDBC calls that you would do, that a programmer would do if this was not there. So the sugar is that this is much treated as lesser code, but eventually what gets executed is what a developer would have written right now. So, and that's really the the massaging out the nitty-gritties or the ugliness from the query itself, and get the focus of the developer to write only the query and not the code surrounding it. Does that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. That was the sugar part.
Yeah, that was the sugar part. The classic lazy evaluation.
The lazy evaluation, as I said earlier too, is that the query gets composed as a sequence of method calls, and the execution of that really happens when you use that later on, which says that you have a state or the snapshot of the database or whichever your backend is, and I utilize this variable result later in my Java code. Then at that moment, the query gets composed and executed, and the results get back and populated in the result variable. However, at a later point, if you again use the variable result, then the query would again be translated and composed and executed again on the database, which is to say that when this was defined or constructed, the method call when it was constructed, the results were not returned from the database at that moment in time, and it is only when it's used that you actually go to the database, get the result. So it's the lazy part really comes in is that when you're defining it or constructing the query, you don't really execute that. So that is to say, if in your Java code normally if you come across a function, you write your prepared statement, then you would, and if the control flow goes in there, it would execute that then and there.